it's not going to come if you sit at your desk every day, know that your work isn't right, but you don't do anything active to actually go find out what is. And not having the time is probably one of the biggest excuses that we can all use from time to time. And it really is an excuse. Track your time meticulously for 7 days. You will be shocked at how much time flitters away doing things that don't really create a ton of value for you. Clarity comes from engagement, not thought. What does that mean in this context? It means that every single person listening right now, let's say they have a job and they're like, I am done with this job, but I don't know what else I should be doing. There's something in them that has an interest. It could be an interest in art. It could be an interest in baking. It could be an interest in music. Find a way to go take action in that direction, no matter what it is. It could be interning for someone, working for them for free, picking up a book, taking a class. Finding some way to get involved in that area will give you not only insight, but it'll start to open up creative channels. You'll start to meet people. You'll start to say, oh, this is great as a hobby, but I would never want to do this as a career. I think that all of the insight, clarity comes from engagement, not thought. You're not going to figure it out sitting on your couch. You're not going to figure it out necessarily scrolling on Instagram or your phone. You're going to figure it out by getting into some kind of action and giving yourself permission to experiment, right? Giving yourself permission to try things, and it might not work, and that's okay. But you're going to learn something. You're going to discover something. You're going to have a conversation. You'll stumble upon your own article where your own body lights up like a Christmas tree, and you'll be like, oh my goodness, this is the thing. But it's not going to come if you sit at your desk every day, know that your work isn't right, but you don't do anything active to actually go find out what is.
But, I'm busy. I've got 4 kids. I've got a job. I just don't have the time, Marie.
Oh, that's not having the time is probably one of the biggest excuses that we can all use from time to time. And it really is an excuse because all of us know when it's important enough, we make the time. If not, we make an excuse. We know this. If you're spending any amount of time on Instagram or TikTok on social, if you listen to podcasts, if you do anything outside of your actual job and just feeding yourself and doing what you need to do to stay alive, you have time. You really do. You have to do some basic math. I would recommend, we talk about this in the book, is track your time meticulously for 7 days. You will be shocked at how much time flitters away doing things that don't really create a ton of value for you, that don't give you an opportunity to even have open time where you're not consuming anything, where you're not having other people's thoughts, ideas, or agendas inject into your head, where you're just giving yourself time to walk around the outside and take a walk in the block and in nature and actually let your mind think or wonder or rest or exercise or do any of these other things that can open creative channels where you'll get a download and you'll get an idea like, oh my God, I would have never thought of that if your face was stuck in Netflix or Hulu or TikTok for, the 7 hours a day that you're not working.
Fine. I'm quitting my job. I'm quitting. Quitting is difficult.
Yeah, it's scary.
Why is it so? How do we become better quitters? I was on stage this morning and I said on stage, and I said it all the time, so it's like I sound like a broken record, but we glamorize starting. It's like, oh my God, they started this thing.
Yeah.
But quitting is the equally important thing you have to do before you start.
Yes.
And so quitting is just as much of a skill as starting anything. How do I become a better quitter? I look at your journey, continual quitting.
Yeah.
Throughout. And it's funny because that almost sounds like an insult, doesn't it?
No,
but it does on the surface because quitting is for losers.
Yes. Well, if you believe that.
That's the slogan. Quitting is for losers.
Right.
But if you hadn't quit, imagine the misery.
I would have been so miserable. And so I think there's a couple of things to it. One, I think understanding your risk averseness as a human being is very important. And let me tell you what that means. For me, financially speaking, I'm fairly risk averse. So because of my upbringing, because of this kind of perpetual financial scarcity that there was, I'm not the kind of person who's just going to burn the ships behind me and say, okay, I'm quitting my job, at the magazines and let me just start this coaching business and figure it out. It was like, no, I went back to bartending and waiting tables pretty much 7 days a week because that's what it took to keep the roof over my head and eating food while I figured out this life coaching business. So I would say for anyone listening right now, if you're thinking about quitting, take a look inside. What's your risk averseness? There's a study that was done in the United States. They tracked about 14,000 entrepreneurs, and they found that those who kept their day job as they started their business were 33% less likely to fail. And so I think for anyone listening, it's like, okay, well, you may quit this job, but is there any other circumstance, whether you take another type of job, you go part-time, like what is going to be the kind of financial runway or situation that you need to give yourself an ability to see if this business could work, if starting a business is what you want to do.
And so after you quit, 7 years doing side work.
Yes.
Side
And
hustles.
growing and figuring out the business.
When you quit, what was your aspirations for your coaching business?
Oh my
If I'd
goodness.
asked you on that day, I'm going to say, how long ago was that? So that was 2000
Like 2001.
Okay. Right. So that's 20 odd years ago. If I'd asked you on that day, where are you going to end up in 20 years?
Oh my goodness. I had no freaking clue. At that moment, I was just entrenched in my coach training and I wanted to be a great coach so badly. Meaning, I didn't really have a huge vision because everything was so new. And I think there was so much uncertainty. And quite frankly, as a 23, 24-year-old, I didn't really have the ability to have vision. Like I read so many success books, Stephen, that were like, and this was like a kind of a line in many of the networking talks I'd go to. It's like, well, what's your 5-year vision?
Oh, fuck that.
Right? I was like, I have no idea. I'm literally trying to just get the next 3 paying clients. Like I will coach your dog if you let me. I will coach. That's where I was because I was so committed to trying to be the best coach I could be. And I knew that I needed experience. I needed to work with as many people as possible. So I had no vision for where this thing would go. I just kept taking the next step and the next step and the next step and kind of doing this.
It's not talked about enough what you've just said because perfectionism is one of the things that causes procrastination. And especially as we set out to quit and start the new thing, you hear it all the time. I know you do, which is, well, I haven't got enough of this and I haven't figured out this and I need to find a mentor and an investor and this and a website name and this and that. Whereas in reality, in everything I've ever done, it's this like horrifically messy stumbling forward into the darkness. And even with this podcast, like I'll tell you how it came to be was I enjoyed doing it. That was it. That was the thesis. Didn't know how we'd make money, didn't know how big it would get, didn't know if other people would like it. Actually still blown away that anyone listens because it's been one of the most amazing, like life-affirming things that people care about the types of conversations we have here.
Yes.
But I think that's such an important message because perfectionism, as you write about in the book, you talk about progress and perfectionism and which one to choose. It's such an imprisoning notion that is so pumped up by like fake life coaches and fake entrepreneurs that want to try and sell you something to make them by making themselves seem like they are super special and God-gifted.
Yes.
Where we're all just messy little unorganized, scared frauds.
100%.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.